Hello everyone, I'm Amy Grace Eden, and today what I'd really like to get to is hopefully furnishing an understanding that there is no good and there is no bad ultimately, or that all is good is potentially a higher state of awareness, and that all things are here to teach us. All things are for the sake of expansion of us as individual souls and us as a collective. And I'm winging it. I haven't really got any notes, just a few key points to hopefully help explain this learning. As ever, use your discernment. I'm open to being wrong. I'm still very much a work in progress, and only yesterday I was reminded of some areas that I still have to heal, and again today. So I'll tell you about yesterday actually, because I think that might help express how everything in the external is a mirror of the internal. So yesterday was my birthday. It wasn't a big special birthday. But birthdays for me have been a trigger point probably for as long as I can remember. I don't really remember having good birthdays when I was a kid, and I think I built up a lot of expectation and had a lot of egoic influence into what I believed a birthday should be. So I have held a perspective that birthdays are about being celebrated as an individual, being given thanks, and having a bit of a fuss made about you. And so that's the way that I've always responded to other people's birthdays. I've always made a big fuss and palaver whether or not they wanted it, because that was my mirrored expression. So last year was a big birthday, a bit of a landmark, and it was probably the worst birthday that I've had in terms of the experience of pain, but it was possibly also the most expansive that I've had. So this big birthday, various things went wrong, nothing ever really goes wrong, but went askew or unexpectedly leading up to the birthday, and no plans were made. Barford to go out in the evening to see some fireworks with family, and nobody, when I got up that morning, nobody called me. I was already in a very depressed state because of things that happened in the weeks or two leading up to the birthday, and when no one called, I felt rejected, I suppose, and oh woe is me. So by the time somebody eventually did call around lunchtime, I was already in this state of projecting my internal state onto them and being quite angry and upset and rejecting of them. So I literally cut my nose off to spite my face, and ended up spending that whole birthday alone, upset. And I did go to the fireworks display, but I went on my own, and I didn't speak to anybody whilst I was there. It was crowded, it was cold, I forgot my wallet, so I couldn't even get a cup of hot chocolate, and I went home feeling incredibly upset at the world and all the people in it. And since last year, between last year and this year, there's been an awful lot of personal growth for me in terms of often occupying a state of oneness, and often seeing higher perspectives, and a sense of collapsing timelines in wherein I see the lessons within even negative things as they're current, as they're happening. Whereas before it would take me, well, with most of things, it's taken me years to be able to reflect back on them and find the gold that was buried within them. So I had that experience last year. This year I have spent this whole past year making sure that nobody that I knew, that their birthday didn't go uncelebrated in some sense. And this was more consensual than it had been before, so I wasn't, letting off party bangers in people's ears when they they really don't like birthdays, which I think was something that I used to do. But it was just more of I would always offer anyone that I knew, I've got a list of everybody's birthdays, and I would always offer thanks for that person when it was their birthday in some form or another, in a style that they wanted it to be. And I told myself all through the year that I wasn't doing this in order for me to be celebrated on my birthday. It wasn't about that. It was about my wanting to learn how to be a giving soul and embodying that more in the external. However, my birthday yesterday actually was mostly good. I went out for a walk. It was really blowy and really cold with the dog, and I saw some beautiful things. I got incredibly muddy. I spent time with family. I ate food from my childhood. I was bought some wonderful things. All these things, how blessed and lucky am I to have such abundance and such love around me. But it's interesting then that what actually triggered my negative feelings was when I got some texts from several people that I knew at around 10 o'clock at night. And all of them, they're all connected. It's a connected friend group, and all of them were saying either, oh my God, sorry, we just remembered it's your birthday, or oh, happy birthday, and not acknowledging that it was really late in the day and nearly not my birthday anymore. And the interesting thing is that I hadn't felt any of that sense of woe is me until I got the texts, until I was reminded of these people that hadn't honoured me. Oh God, that's such a twatty thing to say, but let's go with that because that's where my ego's been at. They hadn't honoured me, and how very dare they. And I became really quite unsettled within myself and upset that this had happened, and felt quite badly towards those people, and struggled to thank them authentically for their well wishes, which I should always be able to do, irrespective of the situation. So, excuse me, that's not the Rona, honest. So, cut forward to today, I woke up in a crabby mood, still reflecting on what had happened the day before. And I started to realise this is kind of like the last bit of ego around birthdays that just needed to be chipped away. I'd had a sledgehammer thrown at ego the year before, but there was still some resistance to letting what is be within me. And so the external had mirrored that internal state. It had given me exactly what I expected, which was some form of disappointment and upset and seeming rejection or negligence of friends who, I've made a fuss for them. Why don't they make a fuss for me? Isn't that how karma works? Well, no, not really. This was a projection of my internal state. This was me getting exactly what I was asking for from the universe. And that's how all things are. So just to conclude that story, it's really interesting that today I've had friends that missed yesterday and family members being so considerate and so supportive and so wonderful to me. I actually had a parcel that was left at a neighbour's house and went back to the post office that I managed to pick up today, and it turns out that was from work colleagues. And it had a card in it with everyone's signature on it and well wishes and funny little in-jokes. And I've been really into stitching lately. I've been really enjoying creative stitching and crafting. And it had in there several, an embroidery pack with tons of silks and Adia fabric and stuff in there, and needles and all the stuff that you would need to do that. And it had a book with lots of patterns that are all really subversive, in really beautiful embroidery, slogans that say things like question authority. Or the best place for a woman is in the resistance. I'm not into resistance, but I appreciate the vibe to it, for sure. And it could not have been a more perfect gift in terms of if somebody really thought about me and thought about things that I would enjoy and things that would benefit my creative self at this particular moment. They could not have bought better. And I had to have a little cry for it and just, let the emotion go and realise that my own impatience and my resistance to just allowing things to be as they are and expecting nothing of the world and not really knowing but just having preferences had blocked all that wonderful stuff that's coming today. I even had a friend turn up this evening who's never been to my house but looked up my address, and because he missed my birthday yesterday, he called around with a birthday cake and a card, and we had a chat at a corona distance, but it was lovely. It was so nice to see him on my doorstep, even though he couldn't come in, and to feel his energy and the connection and consideration, and so going back to dark and light, everything is an internal projection. So holding on to a notion that there is good and bad, and there are this is the thing that I think is particularly dangerous, that there are energies that can attack you or that can take from you, is a particularly destructive one. Everything is of the self. Everything is an external projection of the internal world. So if we hold to a belief that there are demons and there are shadows and there are things under our beds that are going to get us, then that is exactly what we'll get. That is the manifestation that we call in to ourselves. And that's not to say that there are things that are not bigger than just the individual, but the whole world is divisive now. And this is very much us as a collective going through the eye of the needle. And I love how that links in with my birthday gifts. Nice synchronicity. But this is going through the eye of the needle. And once we're through the eye of the needle, we'll be threaded together to weave beautiful tapestries. But here it's like the eye of the storm, and everything is black and white, literally. Like, think about the Black Lives Matter movement and what's happening with that. It is them and it's us, it's man and it's woman, it's Democrat and Republican, it's non-mask wearers and mask wearers, and this is just us, I feel, as a collective, gathering up on different sides in order that we can look one another in the eyes and realise that what we are looking at is only a mirror of ourselves looking back at us. From that point of non-judgment and forgiveness and understanding and balance that we've fostered within ourselves, then we can merge energetically and we can move forward as a collective into New Earth, where we are conscious creators of very many beautiful things. Yeah, I hope I expressed that well. I'm much more comfortable using the mic, and I'm going to keep trying to do these little uploads, although upgrades, I suppose. This is an upgrade for me personally, just to be able to talk through it and kind of fit all these little bits of the puzzle together. As a side note, I am considering a change in my professional life, in which I have created a program that aims to help people to find more internal balance. And that's not to say that I'm I'm not a guru, I'm not enlightened, I'm not chosen, I'm not special, I'm not any of those things. I'm just a human being who remembers more than some people do, and I think it's okay to accept that we're all at different places, but it's not about power relationships, it's just difference. And there is a reason that some people, many people awoke before me, and they're the ones who held my hands and pulled me further up the ladder. And I feel like now that's something that I'd like to be doing. So I'm offering divine embodiment coaching, and as it stands, I'm doing this completely pro bono, and I have a lot of information written out about it that discusses what kind of things I will be offering and how we might work together. But I'm happy to send that to anyone. My email is in my profile, but just in case anyone needs it, it's amygraceeden@gmail.com. And I'm happy to connect with anybody, even if it's just for discussion of this topic or any related topics, whatever, I'm here. And I'm holding space for you. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that, but my neighbours have just arrived with their dog. If you heard some yapping in the background. And my cat's just waking up from the birthday box that he's been sleeping in all day and rustling papers around, so I guess I ought to go and get him some tea. It's been helpful for me to make this post, and I hope you find some benefit from it too. Many blessings, much love and light to all of you.